Ron Howard's story isn't one of easy triumphs or a path paved with fame. It's a story of survival. The boy who grew up on television set under the harsh spotlight of Hollywood's expectations became one of the most respected directors in the world. But the truth behind the smile we've seen for decades is far more complex. Born on March 1st, 1954 in Duncan, Oklahoma, Ron Howard was immersed in the world of entertainment from the very start. His parents, both working actors, moved the family to California in search of opportunity. Before he could even speak, Ron was already exposed to the demands of an industry that often overlooked the well-being of its youngest stars. Hollywood, while giving him fame, also stole his childhood, a harsh reality that shaped his future in ways few could imagine. A childhood lost to the spotlight. At the age of 18 months, Ron's world was no longer filled with the carefree joys of a child, but with the cold precision of film sets and production schedules. His first steps weren't on soft grass or in a park, but on the hard floors of a soundstage. By the time Ron was 6, he had already become a household name as Opie Taylor on The Andy Griffith Show, where America embraced him as the son they never had. Yet, this golden image of youth was far from idyllic. Behind the applause and camera flashes, Ron's world was far lonelier than it appeared. The child star didn't have the luxury of recess, playground games, or friendship. His classrooms were trailers, his classmates, fellow child actors, and the harsh reality of an industry that cared more about the product than the person behind it. The price of fame, isolation, and struggle. Ron Howard's early fame brought with it a painful sense of isolation. The cameras adored him, but his peers did not. At school, he was subjected to cruel taunts. His on-screen persona turned into a target for teasing and bullying. In one particularly painful moment, unable to bear the mockery, Ron suffered the humiliation of losing control and wetting his pants in public. This experience, along with many others, left deep scars, as did the constant pressure of being America's perfect son. In later years, Ron would admit that the fame he achieved at such a young age came at a high cost. He didn't know who he was outside of Opie Taylor, and he feared he would never escape the shadow of that character. A shattered dream, the end of the Monroes. As Ron grew older, he struggled with being typecast. While other boys his age were experimenting with new styles or going on first dates, Ron was stuck in an image that wouldn't let him evolve. After The Andy Griffith Show ended, Ron had high hopes for his next project, The Monroes, a show that could have helped him break free from the chains of his child star image. But when the show was canceled after just one season, Ron was left feeling like a failure. He blamed himself, thinking that he was the reason it hadn't worked. This setback, however, only deepened his resolve to carve out a path that wasn't defined by his early fame. The feeling of failure would stick with him, but it eventually fueled his desire to find success on his own terms. Happy Days, the struggles of being stuck in the past. When Happy Days came in 1974, it seemed like the perfect opportunity for Ron to reinvent himself. He played Richie Cunningham, a role that was wildly popular, but it wasn't the breakthrough he needed. With the spotlight shifting to his co-star, the Fonz, Ron once again found himself stuck in a role that didn't allow him to grow. The show's success, while rewarding, left Ron feeling like he was trapped in a cycle of nostalgia that Hollywood refused to let go of. As much as he worked to grow as an actor, he felt the weight of America's expectation to keep playing that same innocent, wholesome character. The pressure of being stuck in the past started to take a toll on him, and by the time he entered USC's School of Cinematic Arts, Ron began to see filmmaking in a whole new light. Discovering a new identity, becoming a director. It wasn't until he turned his focus from acting to directing that Ron Howard began to feel truly free. At USC, he learned that the art of filmmaking was more than just acting. It was about storytelling, emotion, and structure. This revelation was life-changing. Ron discovered that the camera could be an instrument of expression, not just a tool for capturing his image. His directorial debut, Night Shift, 1982, was a modest success, but it marked the beginning of a new chapter in his career. It proved that Ron could command a set, shape performances, and bring his vision to life. This was the start of something bigger, a chance to redefine his career and escape the legacy of child stardom. Breakout success, splash and building a legacy. Ron Howard's career truly took off with the success of Splash, 1984, a romantic comedy that became a surprise hit, grossing over $69 million. Suddenly, Ron wasn't just a director. He was a bankable filmmaker. His success in Splash was followed by more hits, including Cocoon, 1985, and Willow, 1988. In 1985, he co-founded Imagine Entertainment with producer Brian Grazer, which would go on to produce some of the most successful and emotionally resonant films in modern cinema. While his professional life flourished, Ron continued to grapple with the personal demons of his past. Despite his success, the fear that Hollywood would always see him as Opie lingered. He worked obsessively, driven by the need to prove that he could be more than his child star image. Apollo 13, a masterpiece and a turning point. In 1995, Ron Howard directed Apollo 13, a film that solidified his status as a master storyteller. The movie, which grossed over $350 million worldwide, earned 9 Academy Award nominations, including Best Director for Ron. The success of Apollo 13 was the culmination of everything Ron had worked for. It was a testament to his growth, talent, and perseverance. Yet, even as he stood at the peak of his career, personal struggles began to overshadow his professional triumphs. His mother, Jean, was suffering from heart problems, and his brother Clint, a talented actor, was battling addiction. The isolation that comes with fame became all too real as Ron struggled to balance his professional success with the pain of watching his loved ones suffer. Family struggles, loss, regret, and unanswered questions. In 2000, Ron faced the devastating loss of his mother, Jean. The grief of losing the woman who had supported him through his toughest years was overwhelming. For Ron, success had come at the expense of time spent with family, time spent with those who loved him before the world knew his name. As he sat by his mother's side in her final days, he was confronted with the painful truth that no amount of fame or fortune could give him back those lost moments. Then, as if life had not been hard enough, Ron's brother Clint's struggles with addiction deepened, leaving Ron feeling helpless. Despite his best efforts, Clint's battle with addiction continued to pull him into darkness. It was a fight Ron couldn't win, and it left him feeling powerless, even as he stood at the pinnacle of his professional career. The price of success. Power, loss, and family. Ron Howard's success as a director came at a personal cost. The more he achieved, the more distant he became from his family. His success in Hollywood had come at the expense of time with his loved ones, and as he navigated the complexities of family life, he realized that no amount of recognition or accolades could fill the void left by the loss of his mother. The struggle to save his brother from addiction continued to haunt him, and in many ways, the greatest challenge Ron faced was not in the director's chair, but in the fragile, human relationships that grounded him. Through it all, Ron learned that no matter how many awards or successes one accumulates, the real challenge is in learning to live with loss, regret, and the harsh reality that no one can escape their past. Ron Howard's legacy, a story of resilience and redemption. Today, Ron Howard is not only known for his iconic directorial career, but also for his ability to overcome personal hardships. He has shaped some of the most emotionally resonant films in modern cinema, but his journey has been one of constant struggle and resilience. Behind the films that define his legacy lies a man who has faced tremendous loss, battled with his own identity, and learned the painful price of fame. But through it all, Ron has found a way to persevere, not just as a filmmaker, but as a human being. His story is one of redemption, a reminder that true success is not just measured by what we achieve, but by how we rise from the ashes of our past.